Hey, this is In-Depth Radio in Toronto, NewsTalk 1010, and happy holidays. One of my favorite stories recently is a show I dedicated to a compassion dog. Was the term in the news. In Calgary, a dog by the name of Hawk, a black lab, helped two kids testify against their alleged sexual abuser. So imagine this. These children were too afraid to testify without the help of a dog that allowed them to feel comfortable and safe on the stand and potentially put a child abuser away. That's what a compassion dog can do. And I had no idea who our next guest was, but he was called in as an expert on our sister station and interviewed, and he is Andrew Sprague. He is a man who suffered from PTSD because of, he's a survivor of sexual abuse as a child, and had a lot of issues with trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder, and a compassion dog has helped him get his life together. And also, Tamara Lemieux joins us right now. She is with the National Service Dog Program, and she's here to tell us a little bit about that as well. Andrew, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
And Tamara, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me too.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what your life was like before you met your service dog, who is here. Flicka is just in the corner, lying down. Andrew, what was your life? You obviously had something terrible happen to you when you were a child, and you, I guess, were a successful professional for a while, but unable to function, correct?
That's right. So, survivor of childhood sexual abuse, was able to block it in my mind for many, many years, all through my schooling, all through working, and then all of a sudden the bottom fell out. It's like I stepped on a trap door and my whole world got turned upside down. And I had to deal with a very deep depression, had to deal with a new sense of self, because who I used to be just disappeared. And post-traumatic stress disorder is just a miserable condition that somebody can have without getting proper medical treatment.
So your psychiatrist recommended this PTSD dog.
And so over the course of the medical treatment that I was receiving, my psychiatrist suggested looking into the option of a PTSD dog. It's a concept they've been using in the US for a few years now, but something very new in Canada. And I found my way through the good old internet searches to National Service Dogs, a wonderful charity based in Cambridge, Ontario, who happens to be the only accredited organization in Canada training dogs to work with people who have post-traumatic stress disorder. And with PTSD, it's not something that you have at one point in time and then it absolutely disappears. Somebody really described it well to me. It's almost like having diabetes, that it's with you for life, and you just have to learn management techniques and learn how to manage it. And so, in having National Service Dog Flicka, and that's my dog, and she is a certified service dog, which is a bit different from the comfort dog in the court case in Calgary. The difference being, Flicka being a service dog has full public access rights. She can go on airplanes, all modes of transportation, all public spaces. A comfort dog used in courts wouldn't have those same public access rights. But having Flicka has essentially given me back my life. I am back at work. I had been off work for a few years, and it's amazing how she has helped to get me back on my feet.
We're talking with Andrew Sprague. He suffers from PTSD until he met Flicka, his service dog. And Andrew, how does Flicka help you?
So I'll give you some examples of when you have PTSD, things that you struggle with. And so one of the things is a concept called dissociation, where you sort of zone out. You're here one minute, the next minute your mind is taking you back into your trauma. Your mind's sort of in the gutter, you got to get it out. Flicka has been trained, and in part sort of additional work that I've done with her, can detect when I'm getting in those states. And so she really brings me back to the present. And it's sort of, she'll come up, she'll nudge me, she'll just get right in my face and say, focus on me, take your mind away from whatever you're thinking about that's clearly causing you some distress. And for example, at night I get night terrors. And so I'm sleeping, and I guess in my sleep, my mind decides to go for a bit of a walk. And Flicka, who sleeps at the side of my bed, detects when these are going on. She'll jump up on the bed and she'll start to engage me. And again, it's come back to present day, focus on me, get your mind away from what you're thinking of. Another thing that she helps with, people with post-traumatic stress disorder have a concept called hypervigilance. And I always thought, through my life, I thought we were all like this. And I've learned over the last few years, that no, we're not. But I'm always looking where the exits are in a building when I walk into a room. How do I get out quick? I'm looking for where are the threats. And that's just part of when you have post-traumatic stress disorder, one of the symptoms that comes with it. So Flicka's trained to help give me some personal space between me and other people, say in crowded environments. So she's trained to sort of stay in front of me, to block me, block my side, cover my behind. If, say, I'm at a bank machine and I just don't feel comfortable with people standing behind me, she'll create a physical barrier between me and other people to help sort of give me my personal space, which is something that's very important for people who have post-traumatic stress disorder.
So Flicka really kind of picks up on your vibe and can read what mood you're in.
Some of the things that she's been done, and I've worked with sort of other things, is if, people with post-traumatic stress disorder, we struggle a bit perhaps with affect regulation, just feeling a bit down. And again,
Dog can sense when you're depressed.
That's right. Or just having sort of an off moment or an off day, or if I'm feeling uncomfortable about something. It's incredible. I don't know how she picks up on it, but she can. Flicka's my first dog. I've never had a dog before. I've been told that, dogs just in general sort of have these behavioral traits. I don't know how much
But
of
what did you think when the doctor, essentially instead of medication, a doctor's prescribed for you a dog, and what was your reaction to that?
I'm open to anything, and I have a great doctor. And in doing the research, doing my own research on it, it was like, wow. The experiences in the U.S., particularly with soldiers coming back from armed combat in the U.S. and getting paired with these dogs, a lot of it is there's no hard evidence yet. All of it right now is just anecdotal stories. Our Canadian government has commissioned studies in this area to help our soldiers in Canada. But most of the evidence right now is just anecdotal, and I can tell you from my own story, it is incredible. These dogs are giving us back our lives, are giving me back my life.
Yeah, you've gone from a guy who couldn't work for 2 years and now is a very successful professional in your field, working with how's the dog? It's not a comfort dog. How's it characterized again?
So she's actually a certified service dog.
It's a certified service dog.
Yeah.
So, and this dog can go everywhere with you.
That's right.
I want to talk about that and how you got paired with Flicka, who again is here and patiently lying in the corner. I'm Jim Richards. We're with Andrew Sprague and also Tamara Leniu, and we'll continue. And she is with the National Service Dog Program. She's the coordinator. Back in a moment. Hey, happy holidays. This is In-Depth Radio in Toronto, NewsTalk 1010. It's In-Depth Radio in Toronto, NewsTalk 1010. Happy holidays. I'm Jim Richards, and in studio with us is Andrew Sprague. He is a professional allowed to get back to work because a certified service dog has given him his life back. He suffers from PTSD, and also in studio with us from the National Service Dog Program, the coordinator, Tamara Leniu, is with us. I'm Jim Richards. So let's talk a little bit about this. You had a very traumatic experience when you were a kid, Andrew, and you grew up, you became a professional, you suffered from your PTSD, you were unable to work, and now you go back to work, and this dog has given you your life back. How hard is it to go to work with a dog? Do you worry about what people might think? Or is there a stigma attached to all of this?
I think there is. I can say that my employer has been amazing. Prior to Flicka coming in the office, Human Resources sent an email out to all my colleagues. When the day Flicka came, another email went out. I haven't had any issues at my employer. They have been absolutely fantastic. There perhaps is stigma.
But in your profession, you deal with clients.
Yeah. So if I go to meetings, clients have been amazing. Clients have had no issues, and I go to other meetings off-site from where I work, and generally in the business world, I have not had any issues.
Is everybody educated about where a service dog can go? I mean, when you go on a plane, where does the dog go? Does it sit on the seat next to you? Does it sit in the? No, I don't know.
Yeah, no. no while, because it would be a safety hazard. So she'll usually sit at my feet.
Is there enough room? You have to go first class then.
No, there is. And generally, under the Canadian, transport regulations, airlines are required to give a second seat. And so I'll have, a vacant seat beside me, and she'll lie on the floor between us. It is tight, I will admit. I'm very tall and I've got long legs. It can be a tight squeeze. But we make do.
Okay. So, Tamara, you're in charge of this program, which is, again, the National Service Dog Program. How do people like Andrew find you, and how do you pair them with the right dog? Or is any dog the right dog with the proper training?
Well, we do an extensive intake process. So people have to fill out application forms. They generally have to talk to me first. We look at what the person's needs are and realistically what our dogs are trained to do and how they can support the person. And then people wait. It takes us a couple of years to get dogs trained up. So in that waiting time, as we get closer to when they're going to get their dog, I start talking to them more intimately about what their needs specifically are. And we train the dogs specifically to their individual needs. So
if you're somebody like Andrew, desperate to get his life back, Andrew, Tamara, both of you, that 2 years might be, I would imagine that seems like the longest 2 years ever.
Yeah.
But here's the interesting thing, too, though, is when you have post-traumatic stress disorder and you have a break point, and then you're on your sort of your recovery journey, it's a lengthy journey. And you have to be at the right stage, I think, in your journey to be able to get a dog. Because if you're not able to do certain things for yourself, let alone do it for a dog, it's not a good match. And so I think, in part, a dog's not right for everyone who has post-traumatic stress disorder. You've got to be on a certain area on the spectrum of your recovery for the match to work, for it to be a good fit.
And how much does a service dog like Flicka cost?
So because we're an accredited training center, we have industry standards through Assistance Dogs International, and part of the requirements are that you are a charitable status nonprofit, so there is no charge for our dogs. We value our working dogs for their entire working life at around $30,000.
And you were the one who paired Andrew and Flicka. Mm-hmm. Is there something particular about both of their personalities that you have to kind of figure out that this is the best match?
Yeah, so that's how we do it, Jim. I mean, all of our dogs are trained basics the same way. It's all standardized for service dog to work in public. They're assessed the same way and they're trained the same way. When it comes down to making the match, it becomes a little bit about personalities of the dogs, personalities of the end user. And so my knowledge around PTSD, especially those who have PTSD from maybe a sexual assault or a childhood abuse, those sorts of things, it's about love, unconditional love. And Flicka provides unconditional love to the nth degree. So I knew that she would be a good match for Andrew.
We talked about the stigma that might be attached to having a service dog. Let's talk about the affordability of it. I mean, I would think that a lot of people who suffer from PTSD might not have the ability to afford $30,000. Andrew, you were talking about your worker. Is that help paid for through any kind of insurance or anything, or is that all out of your pocket?
So actually, Flicka was free of charge to me. Because National Service Dogs is a charitable organization, they, through their own fundraising efforts, and I've done some fundraising myself to assist them, but no, Flicka was provided to me free of charge, which is incredible. In the U.S., in the United States, some of the service dog providers are charging people for the dogs.
Yeah.
And here in Canada, National Service Dogs, these dogs are provided free of charge. Best $30,000 gift I've ever been given.
That's pretty amazing. So we'll help you, Tamara, in a couple of seconds. I'm guessing you have a lot of fundraisers, and you try to get awareness out for the life-changing experience that a service dog like Flicka can provide people.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, so there is some expense involved. It's like a lease arrangement. We own the dog. We maintain ownership of the dog. But if Flicka were to become ill or something, she would need veterinary care. Andrew has to pay for that. So there is some cost involved, and it would be difficult for some people to maintain that. But yeah, it's the goodness of people pulling money out of their pockets that helps us.
How many dogs do you have in training right now?
Well, right now in advanced training, we have about 14 dogs in our facility right now that the trainers are working with. They're due to graduate this spring.
And both of you, I know we were a little concerned about the stigma that might be attached with having a service dog. Where are we, do you think, right now? I mentioned that story with the comfort dog in the news in Calgary, which I thought was very touching, and I think people who are around dogs can understand that story. So with more stories like this and Andrew telling his story, are we anywhere near a point where people will see somebody with a service dog and think that that's not, I think, you grow up thinking you see somebody with a service dog and then that they're blind.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it happens. A lot of the, I call them end users, are guys with dogs, a lot of war vets, that people think they're training the dogs. And so it does get some attention that's not always wanted by people who have PTSD. But we're learning together on how to deal with that appropriately. And we're making changes at a high level through legislation and standards being developed across Canada. We're working with the federal government right now to do that. So hopefully all these issues will sort of resolve. And yeah, you'll see a lot more people out there with service dogs.
So both of you talk a little bit about the fine honing that it takes to get Flicka. You were talking about your personality and knowing you. Flicka knows you. And I'm guessing that you couldn't take a Flicka, a service dog, and instantly give it to another person who suffers from PTSD because it's such a personal relationship.
Don't you dare. It was interesting when I got Flicka. I remember, Tamara was with me for the first week. Really, I wanted her to go away because it was really intense to sort of learn how to handle Flicka, and Flicka was pulling, and we were just learning how to dance together, so to speak. And I'd say it took between 3 to 4 months for us really to gel. And so I think if you were to take Flicka and give her to somebody else right now, Flicka would be looking around for me because she's with me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So she'd, want to know where I am. And secondly, there's a period of time where you've got to sort of bond together. And I think, I'll let Tamara speak, but I don't think Flicka would go very willingly. And I think there would be sort of a learning curve for a new handler for Flicka, just because Flicka's, I've had her now for 18 months. Mm-hmm. She's used to day in, day out with me. And I think, new environment, she would have to adjust.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at
Flicka. No, you can't have her.
Yeah, well, I'm taking a look at Flicka right now. Is it a problem getting people to understand that Flicka is working and no more than walking down the street and seeing somebody who might be working, that you can't, run up and start grabbing them or whatever? That I think people's instinct when it comes to pets or dogs, that people want to pat or interact with Flicka, but Flicka is in the middle of working.
Yeah. I think my own personal experience has been that generally people don't come up and try to pet her. What I have heard from people, that if you and I are walking on the street together,
because I got to say, when I saw you,
yeah,
it was my reaction that I wanted to pat.
Yes, but I'll get. I don't know if you saw. I sort of also positioned myself to sort of put a bit of a barrier between, until we had a conversation to sort of have that dialogue. But
Sure.
I'll put a bit of a physical barrier to keep that separation. I do know, and I'll let Tamara maybe speak to this, but other dogs from National Service dogs, the other handlers, have more challenges, I think. And I think because I'm a tall person, I think people keep a distance. I think, and maybe in perhaps other scenarios, NSD clients may have more challenges with people. And, where the real challenges I have is public accessibility. It's going into shopping malls and being told you can't be here with your dog, even though she's wearing a vest and the vest says National Service Dogs on it. I get challenged repeatedly.
Without naming stores, but places that should know better. So we're obviously not doing a good enough job training people who might work in the public's in that kind of.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of room for a lot of public education on this, and I think it's wonderful you have us on today's show to talk about this. I think this helps raise awareness.
Yeah. Tamara, you're nodding your head.
Absolutely, Jim. I mean, this is something that I deal with all the time. I have clients who call me who are upset because people have approached them inappropriately. I mean, I had a gentleman in our community where the training center is who would go to the courthouse to support a family member, and he would be questioned by the same police officer every single day going in about the validity of his service dog because he looks like he's able-bodied.
Yep.
And he's not blind, right?
Okay, so we're running out of time. I hate to cut you off, but I want to make sure that people get an opportunity to find out where they can donate money to provide perhaps the next dog for somebody who's got PTSD like Andrew.
Yes, well, go to our webpage for sure at www.nsd.on.ca. We have a couple staff who will gladly help you through that process to donate.
Very good.
A very worthwhile cause.
Yeah. Well, it changed your life, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, pleasure meeting all of you,
Thank you.
including Flicka and Poppy,
And Poppy.
who's in the corner, and
Annie.
the young lady whose name I forgot. We all know I'd mispronounce.
Yes.
If I did remember.
Ani.
Ani. All right, guys. Happy holidays.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
coming in. I appreciate it. I'm Jim Richards. There you go, folks. That's Andrew Sprague, Flicka, the therapy dog, and also Tamara Lenyu, who's with the National Service Dog Program. She is the coordinator. I'm Jim Richards. Did I get it wrong?
No, you got it right.
I got it right. I'm Jim Richards, and this is In Depth Radio, Toronto News Talk 1010.